welcome everyone. This is the Fourth and Forever podcast. I am your host, Josh Kirby, and we had a very exciting weekend of NFL football. We had a lot of blowouts, which I'll run through a few of those games later. But let's start with probably the most significant thing that happened. Probably the biggest game of yesterday was Denver Broncos taking on the Green Bay Packers. The Packers and Broncos have been two of the better teams coming in from the off. A lot of people in the offseason believe these are going to be two teams that are going to have really successful seasons. Denver has been on a huge win streak, while the Packers have been, I think, injuries have kind of derailed the success that we predicted for this season, but they've still been a really good team. So let's start off with this. Michael Parsons is believed to have torn his ACL. Not only in that game, but Christian Watson seemed to have been banged up again. Now, the reports have came out right before I started recording this that he still might play next week, that it doesn't seem to be a serious injury, but either way, he's not coming in at 100%. You already don't have Tucker Kraft. Was it Elton was Jenkins, I think is his name. But either way, Elton, he's hurt too, so you definitely have some missing pieces, and not having Michael Parsons definitely does make this team not as complete as it was coming into the season. And I told everyone, I said on the latter half of the season, the Packers have it the toughest. They still have to play the Ravens, who looked the best they've looked since the game against Miami. Then the Bears, who had a dominant win yesterday. And then they have to end the season with the Vikings, who, even though they've had an up and down season, JJ played one of his best games of the season, and that defense has still been flying high. Excuse me. You saw them against Dallas. It was insane. This really could be the beginning of the fall of the Green Bay Packers season. Maybe not missing the playoffs, but definitely where they will rank going into the playoffs. Right now, fighting for wild card spots are the Niners, the Rams, the Seahawks. There's a chance they don't make the playoffs. Now, I think they still have a great team, and I think what they're really competing with is the Niners, because I think, well, I guess the Rams, Seattle Niners, one of those teams are going to win the division, so which is the big benefit for the Packers. Luckily, Carolina had another loss, Tampa had another loss, so them two teams are fighting for the division, kind of similar to how the AFC North is with the Ravens, Steelers, kind of fighting for the division, and outside of that, probably won't make the play. The other team won't make the playoffs, which gives the Packers a real chance to still make the playoffs. Not saying the Lions are out of it, but they just have the tiebreaker benefits, so it's going to be difficult. And not to mention, all Niners, they won yesterday. Rams, they won yesterday. Seattle, they won yesterday. Green Bay, they did not win. It's really going to put them in a tough position. They could go from being potentially a 1, 2, or 3 seed in the NFC to sitting at almost the 7th seed again. If you haven't noticed, the Green Bay Packers, it's been a common trend for them of winning the 7th seed. And they can come out and play a really good playoff game, but now you have to play against top competition week after week after week in the playoffs, which that's what every team's going to do enter, obviously. But it's a lot harder when you don't have that full-on piece that you have being Michael Parsons. He was supposed to tie everything up together. He was supposed to be the game changer. But as for the Broncos, they've won 11 games in a row. They're most likely going to win their division, especially with the Chiefs being officially eliminated from the playoffs, which we would talk more about that, and the Chargers being, I think it's like 2 games behind. Even though I don't think they play again. Maybe they do, but either way, those two teams are really gonna. Those two both teams are probably gonna make the playoffs. But the Broncos probably have a good chance of even taking the number 1 seed. Bo played one of the best games of his career. He looked on, he looked ready. He looked like he was ready for this competition. Green Bay defense have been dominating and really messing up a lot of great quarterbacks this season. Couldn't rattle Bo Nix. He played a very clean, competent game, and it helped lead them to a victory. As in, the defense has still been the lifeblood of this team. They've been what's kept them in every game. They make big plays. They get to the quarterback. It Overall, these are the two of the teams that were favored going into the season. And Denver throughout the season has become more and more a favorite of the AFC. Where I think Packers, like I've settled on them, I think other people have settled on them a little bit too. Where it's a team that has, I think, everything to be a great team, but they may still be a year away, and especially with injuries, it's hard to predict a season because you never know when injuries are going to come. And Honestly, that transitions me to my next point of the Chargers and the Chiefs. The Chargers beat the Chiefs 16-13 in a tightly contested divisional matchup. But truthfully, I think everyone watching had faith in the Chargers more than the Chiefs. The biggest takeaway from this game is the Chiefs have officially been eliminated from the playoffs. The first time they have not made the playoffs since 2014, and that's just it's devastating for the city, but they've had a lot of success. But I think the real thing that's going to shake them coming out from this game is Patrick Mahomes has been confirmed tore his ACL. As you know, well, I don't know if you know, but as most of us watching football know, an ACL tear can eventually be a 9-month recovery process, which means there's a good chance he may not be back till October or November of next season. So this not only has implications on this season's washed, next season could also be washed just based on the recovery process. Now, he still would be considered a younger athlete. I mean, he's might be 30 now, so it could give or take, but generally younger athletes, they take really good care of their bodies, tend to bounce back a little quicker, so maybe we'll see him by mid-September, maybe by October, but either way, this has really shifted the Chiefs for going into next season. They are over 40 million over the cap. They got Travis Kelce might retire. Honestly, to clip the cap space, like I said, I think in the last podcast, maybe it's time to trade Chris Jones. Get the capital you can for him now. Why it's probably the highest it's going to be for the remainder of his career. And I do wish Mahomes a speedy recovery. I always say whenever a player gets injured like this, it was him, Parsons. We had Devontae Adams got banged up today. Just and Ravens Teddy Buchanan. He great rookie. He's been second on the team for tackles. He messed up his knee. I wish all these players a speedy recovery because no matter how it works out in the NFL, I never want to see it work out in someone's favor based on someone else's injury. That's always the most devastating way to win because it feels like you're not playing the best at that point when the greats get hurt. And I think, and just for the NFL is better when Mahomes and the Chiefs are playing great. Viewers come in, you want to play the best. And next season, with a chance of Mahomes missing most of the season, means you won't be seeing one of the best quarterbacks in the league playing most of next year, which is just devastating for the city, that franchise, and for all of us watching. Even all of us, even me as a Ravens fan, I'm preying on the Chiefs' downfall. I don't want them to be good. I love that they miss the playoffs, but I don't want to see anyone go out like this. So, like I said, my thoughts and are with all these players that are hurt, especially Mahomes. I hope you have a speedy recovery, and we hope to see you back next season ahead of schedule. But as in for the Chargers, though, they are sitting at 10-4. They're in a good position not only to make the playoffs, but most likely secure a wild card spot. Them and Buffalo will probably be deciphering who's going to get the top wild card spot, which is going to be very important because whoever gets the top wild card spot most likely is going to have to travel to Baltimore or travel to Pittsburgh, which neither environments are great to play. I don't think either team is perfect. I definitely have a little more height on the Ravens because I think we're a more complete team, and I think if this offense is clicking at a high level, that we can beat anyone. But either way, they're tough places to play, and it's really going to be important for the seeding to see what team is going to be able to come out as the AFC champion. But I struggle to trust the Chargers. I mean, they've been winning games with a banged up O line. The defense is not 100% healthy, but they've still been playing really hard. They've got their running back in Hampton, who's going to be a really good running back in this league. They got good weapons all around. Maybe not great, but they have really good weapons all around. And Herbert's playing at a really high level, like he has most of his career. This is a team that I very much believe is a playoff team. I just don't know if they're going to win one playoff game or if they're going to win multiple playoff games. I feel like this is one of those teams you really got to see how they're going to compete against a team like the Broncos or a team like the Texans, where they have two really good pass rushers and or overall pass rushes in general against a banged up O line, which could be the difference maker for this team going into the playoffs. But I would like to see it. I don't want to judge them too much until that happens. It's going to be interesting to see how it pans out for them going into next season when they're going to need that O line needs to get healthy. And this could be a team that could really do some numbers next season, especially if Mahomes is hurt. The Chargers Broncos have an even better opportunity next year to repeat the same success or be even more successful. As in, for a fun little note to talk about, is the Colts and the Seahawks. Philip Rivers threw a touchdown. He threw a little over 100 yards and he moved the chains. Um, I mean, you can't expect much. He's 44 years old. He's coming to a team that is kind of treading water right now, and it's not like they're a bad team. I think this defense played really well. I think they probably played harder than they would have if you had Riley Leonard or some nobody come on this team. I just think it's really hard when everyone knew what you were gonna do. You knew Rivers isn't a threat to run. He's never been. Even when he was younger, he's a pocket passer, true and true. You were gonna run it with JT, and this Seahawks defense is insane. Seahawks team is really talented. They have a hyper active offense, and they have a really fast motion dominant defense. The biggest difference of this game was I think the Seahawks wanted to get in and out. Rivers made it. I don't think anyone expected Rivers to keep it close and for the Colts to keep it close, having them trading field goals at the end of the game for the Seahawks to eventually seal the game. The Seahawks just didn't want to get injured. They didn't want to get banged up. They knew they had the Rams next, and that game will determine their seeding. If they can beat the Rams, it can really give them a good shot, not only at winning the division, but at potentially claiming the number one seed in the NFC, which is very important, I think, for every team right now in the NFC, because home field advantage has always been huge in the playoffs. But I think having a team that have to come and play at Seattle, or Seattle having to go play in Green Bay, or go play in Chicago, go play in LA. It's there's so many different uh, potentials of what could happen, and you much rather lock up that number one seed and get your home field advantage, get that comfortability, and force people to come in and beat you in your house. And that is a huge game for them. As in the Colts, their remaining games are against the Niners, the Jags, and the Texans. I don't see the Colts winning any more games. I think they'll finish 8-9. I just don't think they're winning another game. I just think the teams left are just too good and are playing for so much more. Because even if the Colts win, let's say, two of their next three games, it's gotta both be against the divisional opponents. Because if you don't beat the Jags and the Texans, you're not going to slide into a playoff spot over one of those teams just based on how the season's is panning out for you guys. Then you play the Niners, who the Niners are trying to secure their playoff spot. If the Niners find themselves trickling back, the Lions could be right on the tail. They need to still win some games to secure themselves in the playoffs, even though the division may be a little out of reach for them. As in some other games to bring up that I think are quick throwaways, the Commanders beat the Giants 29-21. I think the Commanders are looking towards next season, and so are the Giants. Giants been banged up all year. They're hoping to get some pieces back, maybe have some good drafts, get a new coach in there, and really get this team to hopefully compete within the division and eventually for a playoff spot. But the Commanders are hoping to get healthy and figure out what went wrong in the offseason, which I've been saying all year. You need to really address the O line and you need to improve the defense and hopefully get another really talented wide receiver to go alongside Terry because at this rate, you just don't have enough to compete with the great teams like you should have. And beating the bad teams late in the season when you both are doing nothing doesn't matter. Bears dominated the Browns in a 31-3 victory. Bears are just a serious team. They're a team that you should have. The Browns defense should have played better. I mean, I will shout out Myles Garrett, who is officially 1.5 sack away from breaking the single sack record. I think he will do it. I think all of us predict he's going to do it. He just, someone playing at his level, it's hard to say he's not. But even then, I think the Bears, but that was the game. No, I mean, Shadur had a rough game, but I'm not a big Shadur guy, so I don't need to focus on that too much. Well, if he earns, I think he's going to go in the offseason. He's going to be competing for the starting job again, and then we'll see what happens. I think if Stefanski does get fired in the offseason, then Shadur may have a better opportunity. But if Stefanski's there, he's clearly not Shadur's number one fan, and he's definitely going to make him compete for the starting job no matter who's going to be in that quarterback room. As in for the Bears, Ben Johnson has turned this team around. They've officially doubled their win total from last season. Caleb Williams had one of his best games as a pro again, making throws that make you feel like, wow, this is a talent that is that could really do some things in the NFL. I still don't trust this defense completely, so I think going into the playoffs they might be a little ahead of their skis. I think, but this was a good win for this organization, and if they can win the division after have only having 5 wins last season, There's a lot, and that in a very tough division too, where it's like even with the Vikings, who aren't a great team, they're a team that plays hard, and the Lions, who are have been a really great team and still a really good team, maybe not as great as they were, and the Packers, who are still a really great team. So, in one of the toughest divisions in football, if you can pull out winning the division, that's impressive. The Jaguars dominated the Jets, who I just got a notification right before I started, fired Steve Wilks, the defense coordinator. I think we all saw that coming. This defense isn't good. The offense isn't good. There's nothing about this team that's good. I don't like the Jets. I don't like anything about them. They they haven't given me anything to have hope for the future, so I'm not really worried about them. But the Jags, it's once again, I think the Jags, what it really comes down to is what they're going to do in the playoffs. Do you trust Trevor Lawrence in the playoffs? Do you trust this young team in the playoffs? I don't know. I don't think I see them competing with teams like the Broncos or maybe the Patriots, or even if the Ravens get hot. I do which team do you trust more? So I think this was a good win for them, a good dominant win, but I really want to see where they're going to go from here. Like I said, there's some teams where they are kind of set up their playoff positioning, and I'm more curious to see what they do in the playoffs to see how legit they are. The Eagles shut out the Raiders 31 to nothing. Are we shocked? No. Raiders don't have anything. They need a quarterback. They need another receiver. They need some offensive linemen. Which their offense isn't terrible, but okay, no, the offensive lineman's bad. It's really bad. And Genty, who knows if he's a bust or not? You can't get him going with that bad O line. That defense is pretty pitiful across the board, other than Crosby. Is Pete Carroll the answer? I think Pete Carroll might be a one and done there. Overall, this team is just a mess, and the Eagles, even though they haven't been perfect all season, they still proved that why they're one of the best teams in the league, and that if they make the playoffs, which unless they lose out, they will make the playoffs, then the Eagles are going to be one of the teams that should be favored to win the NFC, no matter what, because they just have that winning pedigree to them. The Texans beat the Cardinals 40-20. Cardinals got a lot of garbage time points, so I don't think it really mattered. Texans are just a killer team. This offense is clicking. This defense is on fire. This is a team that entering the playoffs, I don't think no one wants to face, because how are you going to counteract that pass rush is going to be really difficult. And they're not letting opponents score. Like they really aren't. And now that this offense is scoring, this is a Texans team that could surprise some people entering the playoffs and could sneak out one, two, maybe three playoff wins, and we could see them represent the AFC. I don't think that's going to happen, but I wouldn't be shocked if it did. I mean, who do you like more, Bo Nix or CJ Stroud? I mean, Texans and Broncos defenses are both elite defenses. I would probably give the coach to Sean Payton. As you all know, I'm a huge Sean Payton fan. But seriously, like, if, who would you trust more, Stroud or Bo? I like Stroud more, but I think Bo's had a better season. But either way, in the playoffs, it doesn't always matter what you've done in the season. Every team is entering the playoffs. It's you got to win and move on. So if you have a bad game, you're just done. Plain and simple. Then the Panthers lose 20-17 to the Saints. I will say this: Tyler Shuck for the Saints. I think he's done enough to be in the conversation to compete for the starting job again next year. I don't think he's the solution. I don't think he's the answer. I don't think he's it. But he definitely adds a little juice to this team. This team likes playing behind him, but they just don't have players. While the Panthers, they have put themselves in a position to potentially win the division, and now it's going to come down to them playing the Bucks twice on the back half of the year. And I mean, it's the same with Bucks. They put themselves in a tough position too. One of these teams are going to make the playoffs and win the division. One of these teams are going to miss the playoffs and look around and be like, "What happened? We were on a trajectory to do this." Whether the Panthers or Bucks make the playoffs, whatever team makes the playoffs should think they had a successful season. Whichever doesn't should be very disappointed and should have a lot of questions going to the off season with not a lot of answers. Next, though, I want to talk about the Buffalo Bills taking on the Patriots, getting back into more games that really mattered. In a tightly contested game, the Patriots started off hot, going up 14-0 on them early, and the Bills started rallying back. It was a fun game. You had two games with good coaching staffs, two high quality quarterbacks. I mean, Josh Allen's already proven what he's been able to do, winning an MVP last season and being one of the best quarterbacks in the league since, I would say, his second, third year. And then Drake May, who's in his second year, who's really has put himself in that next echelon of quarterbacks. He doesn't get rattled in the pocket. Defenses don't really phase him. He is a consistent thrower. He makes big plays. He can run the ball. These two quarterbacks are everything you want to compete against on Sunday. You want to see these guys compete. I would watch the Bills Patriots game every week if I could. Like these are good teams. They're fun teams. The Bills defense is still a little suspect. I think going to the playoffs, it can be more of an issue. But if you have Superman Josh Allen, I mean, a team's gonna have to score 30 to beat them. They're gonna have to because the Bills can score 30. If Josh Allen just turns it on, he turns it on. All for the Patriots, I think that's I think I was high on them coming into this season. I thought they would make waves and they would be a lot better than they were. I think they would really establish themselves as a team maybe a year away. And I still think entering the playoffs, they might still be a year away. They have the best chance of winning their division, but that easily could slip away. They're still a young team. They're still not they're a good roster, but not a complete roster. It's a team that with 4 or 5 good draft picks and maybe a good free agent pickup, they could really do something next year. While I think this year, even if they make the playoffs, I think there's some experienced teams that may give themselves a better advantage over the Patriots based on experience and based on just overall talent. But the Patriots have performed to a high level this season, and I want them to get the respect they deserve because I was high on them coming this season, and they have definitely exceeded expectations for a lot of people. So, props to both these teams. Whatever team wins the division, definitely deserves it, and they're both teams are more likely to make the playoffs and really deserve it as well. As in for let's talk about I want to talk about the Sunday night game. Vikings taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas loses the game, and unless they win out and the Eagles lose out, Dallas pretty much has kissed the playoffs goodbye. But that's okay. They had a season that started off with a lot of inconsistency, and overall throughout the season, that's been what's really, I would say, cuffed them this season. They were just inconsistent, unable to really get a lot of things going throughout the year. But one thing they did find is every trade they made, a lot of free agency pickups they made, Pickens worked out. Logan Wilson's worked out. Quinn Williams, I mean, he was an impact playmaker the moment he got there. And then look at their drafts. Overshown is going to be a great linebacker for them. Javonte Williams in free agency, he's going to be a great addition to this team moving forward. He really he's more confident than ever now being able to come here and do what he was doing early in his career in Denver before his injuries, which I always liked Javonte Williams. I thought he was going to be really great, but the injuries really shook his confidence, and you can see he's gained it back, and he's going to be a really valuable member of this team moving forward. This Dallas team has really set themselves up to have a good season next year. This is a team that if they can get maybe some more people signed up, get younger and healthier, maybe on the O line, maybe take a few draft picks and force them a little more on that defensive side, sign Pickens to a long term deal. This is a team that really could not just make waves next season, but they could be back to a 12-win team and really be competing for the division with an Eagles team that has been plagued with always chaos in the franchise. Even when they're winning, there's always chatter and something going on. If the Cowboys can just go out there, put their heads down, make good offseason moves, they could easily come in and be a real impact player week 1 in the NFL next year. So they have a lot to look forward to. So it's weird not bashing the Cowboys. I just have to respect what they've done, and I really am excited to see what they do next season. As for the Vikings, that defense is so skilled, but if I'm a betting man, which I'm not a very successful betting man, but if I'm a betting man, I would say Brian Flores won't be there next year. He's going to get a head coaching opportunity, and it's more than well deserved. I've been saying it all year. This guy has proven it week in, week out that he deserves an opportunity to lead a team again. In that case, your defense, more likely than not, is not going to be as good as it is this year, next year. So you have to figure out what JJ McCarthy is. JJ went 15 for 24, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick with a quarterback rating of 116.67. So statistically, one of his best games of the season. I'm pretty sure it's his best game this season. And he looked really good. They've changed the offense, focusing on getting Hockenson more involved, so him throwing to his tight ends more, which everyone can say young quarterbacks benefit from having a top tier tight end and scheming open their tight end. You've seen it with Lamar early in his career, having Mark Andrews, and still to this day, Mahomes with Kelsey, Goff having Hawkinson and Laporta. You've seen, I mean, Flacco when he went from Todd Heap to Dennis Pitta. You've seen across the league, Drew Brees, Jimmy Graham. Like I said, I can just keep going on. Having a good solid tight end really is a comfort blanket to a lot of young quarterbacks. And if you scheme that open, you're seeing JJ play at a better level than you have since they've schemed more towards the tight end. Which yes, it sucks for Justin Jefferson, but he's a guy that is just he's a guy that could be a diva so fast, but he isn't because he loves his team. I think what the benefit is with JJ, he's a good positive, good energy, good vibe, nice guy. He's rooting for his teammates. The first play of the game didn't go as planned. He came on the sidelines and he was like, "Yeah, we'll get him. It's all good. Guys, don't worry about it." Like he doesn't let the chaos of a game sometimes bring him down, especially when it's really hard. I mean, you look at first pass of the game gets tipped, intercepted, and Cowboys are about ready to go score. That can deflate a team real fast. But by the end of the game, that play didn't even matter. The Vikings win it out. So I have to give a lot of props to JJ for what he's able to do as a leader in that locker room. They believe in him. They want to believe in him. But either way, no matter how great of a guy you are, no matter how much the locker room can root for you, it will get tiresome eventually. Because this roster and this overall team, the coaching staff, everything that this franchise has put together has been too good to not be a playoff team and not compete for a championship. So JJ is not the guy. You have to figure it out soon. I don't think you have enough time this year to figure it out, but I think he's done enough this season to give him a chance again next year. But by Thanksgiving next year, you have to know if JJ's the guy. So if JJ isn't the guy, then you have to have a contingency plan. You have to know what's next for this team. This is a team that I wouldn't be shocked if in the offseason they go grab a veteran to sit behind JJ to help him with the playbook, help him with figuring out some stuff. Honestly, I know maybe this wouldn't be the best move for both parties, but I think it would be a successful move for both parties. Is if the Falcons traded Kirk Cousins to the Vikings, they would have to eat most of the contract. But I think Kirk would be really good there. He knows locker room, he knows the system. He could really help JJ there, and I think Kirk is willing at this stage of his career to sit as a backup and teach a young guy. I think he loved it in Minnesota. His family liked being there. He really felt at home there. I would not be shocked at all if he ends up back there. And if he can end up back there backing up JJ McCarthy and getting McCarthy ready throughout the season, then if JJ doesn't pan out, at least you can insert a quarterback that knows the system, that knows the players, that knows the environment, and that the overall city would still be happy to see. So I think that would be really interesting to see. That could be a good dynamic there, but we'll have to wait and see how it turns out. Because if Penix is still hurt, the Falcons might be happy to keep Kirk, depending on what they're going to do with Penix. But either way, you have to figure it out by Thanksgiving next season, because this is a roster that every year that goes by that you're waiting is another year that this team is getting further from being how good they are. Like I said, it was the same with the Niners. You saw the Niners, they were competing for Super Bowls, but they didn't have the right quarterback. And you see now, is Purdy the guy? Is Purdy not the guy? Is Purdy the guy? Is Purdy not the guy? I like Purdy. I don't love Purdy, but I like Purdy. A lot of people like Purdy, don't love Purdy. But will that San Fran team ever get to success they had? I mean, since they were that prime team, Kittle's not in his prime. Warner is hurt now for the first time in his career, and he's not in his prime. Bosa's hurt again. He's not in his prime. You don't have Greenlaw. McCaffrey is definitely not in his prime no more. No matter what he does, he's definitely on the back half of his career. You really don't have a solid number one. Ayuk's probably not coming back. You don't have Debo. I mean, the 49ers team that was competing for Super Bowls, not winning them, but competing for them, is not there anymore. And who knows if that team will ever be good enough to get there again. That I think is what's happening with the Vikings. You have a team that's good enough to compete, but each year that goes by, players get older, players move on, and eventually you will not have the ability to compete when it is most needed. So that's for those teams. I'm excited to see what happens for both those teams and where it goes from there. But I think the game I'm most excited to talk about are the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. We showed up in Cincinnati, shut them out 24 nothing. And before I talk about us, let's talk about the Bengals. They didn't come to play. That defense didn't come to play. That offense didn't come to play. Other than Jamar Chase, who had over 100 yards, who he came to play. I mean, 10 receptions, 100 some yards. He came to play, but Burrow looked flat. And after Burrow's comments last week, he just, I think he's just trying to struggle with just a team that's losing, missed the playoff 3 years in a row. He's been banged up with injuries. So it's like you want to blame the organization, but you haven't been there either. This is a team that really needs a nice overhaul. I think the GM is going to be fired after this season. There's a good chance Zach Taylor loses his job and missing the playoffs 3 years in a row. Is going to, even though your quarterback's been injured, it still doesn't look good on your resume when you're trying to compete for Super Bowls, which when you have a quarterback at Joe Burrow's level, that should be what you're competing for. But you're not even competing for the division. I mean, you're at 10 losses on the season. You're eliminated from the playoffs. You have no future this season. It's all next season. And what are you looking forward to next season? You've paid your top two wide receivers, which blew my mind stat in the last or 2.5, almost 3 seasons. Those three guys that you paid, Burrow, Higgins, and Chase, has only shared the field about 39% of the snaps. That's ridiculous. That's 39% of the snaps for over, let's say, 75-80% of your money. That is that's not a recipe for success. That's a recipe for someone getting fired. For many people getting fired. I think they should have done what I think they're going to do what they should have done. They paid Higgins. It was a mistake. They should trade Higgins. I think it's go get capital, have someone that will be willing to pick up a portion of his contract to give you guys some money. Trade Hendrickson. You won't give him the deal he wants. He clearly is not happy there. He's banged up again. Let him go. Go get some young defensive players. Go make some splash. Get some draft picks on these trades. Put Burrow and Chase in a better situation offensively by giving them a better defense to compete with. And maybe bring in a really talented defensive coordinator that, if Harbaugh left, I would love for him to get our job. But if not, Brian Flores is going to be on the market for a head coach. And if there's anybody out there that can turn a defense around, even if all the players aren't elite top tier talent, it will be him. He did it in Miami. He's done it in Minnesota. He can do it in Cincinnati. He can go to the Bengals and he can better this team. Like I said, whatever team gets Brian Flores as their head coach is going to be thankful the next season. He is going to be able to turn that defense around wherever he goes. And I think if I was him, would you want to go to an organization that has an elite quarterback with a defense you just gotta clean up? Or do you want to go to a pitiful franchise where you don't know what you got in Tennessee, or you don't know what you're gonna get in Las Vegas if they don't keep Pete Carroll? I'm just saying, Cincinnati's really got to make some tough decisions going in the offseason. They got to get Burrow happy first and foremost. If Burrow isn't happy and Burrow isn't having fun out there, Burrow could walk away from this game, or he could demand a trade. And I think that would be the worst case scenario for this team and this franchise. Because if you trade away Burrow or Burrow retires, this franchise is going to be more pitiful than they already are this season. As in, I think that was enough Bengals talk. Let's talk about my Ravens. First and foremost, I was yelling Zay Flowers' name at the beginning of the game because he was frustrating me. But man, his consistency needs to raise a little bit. But he is so talented, and I think if he just focuses down and locks down, he can be one of the great wide receivers on this team. But I think I'm still not as confident in him as I would like to be. I don't trust this offensive line. Obviously, the guards are not that great, but even with Stanley getting banged up, that left side clearly it was a liability after Stanley got hurt. Um, I'm not sold on any. I think Hopkins made a good play. We got Andrews to make some good plays. Henry was running the best I think he's ran in a while. Lamar's played his best game since the Miami game. He looked like he was moving a little better. Overall, I think this team is healthier than it's been. I mean, we lost Teddy Buchanan, which really sucks. He was second on our team for tackles. He was having a really good rookie season. I really liked what he's shown us, and what I'm excited for him to get back next year and really show us what he can do next year. But we still have great talent all around. Humphrey's still playing at a high level. Hamilton's still playing at a high level. Wiggins is playing at a high level. Van Noy had a unselfish, brilliant play. The interception that hands it off to Gilman, who was able to run it in for a pick six. That was huge. Forcing turnovers, stopping them from scoring. We've become one of the best red zone defenses in the league this season. We still give up too many yards, but overall, this defense has been one of the best defenses in the league since the bye week. And this offense, if this offense can click in like the way it is, this is a team that I really think can make waves in the playoffs. Now, we play the Patriots next Sunday. It's a Sunday night game, prime time. Lamar's really good in prime time, so I like that. But I don't like that it's a really good team and they're playing for their division as much as we are. Now, if we can go out there and we can beat the Patriots, I don't care what kind of game we play, if we can go out there and we can beat the Patriots, I really like our odds moving forward in the season into the playoffs. Because then we play the Packers, who they're a little more banged up. They're a little more. I think their spirit's been, I wouldn't say broken, but it's been a little crack in the spirit with Parsons getting hurt and Watson banged up and them losing a game they really should have won. And the Bears currently leading the division. They're certainly not in the highest of spirits. Where I think we as a team were playing a lot harder. We're playing for a lot more. And then we end the season with the Steelers. So the next three games really are going to determine everything. But we hold it in our hands. If we win out, we win the division, we're in the playoffs, and I will give us a shot against anyone. Because if we win out, that means we played two we beat two potential playoff teams, which will give us, I think, a huge boost going into the playoffs because it's something I didn't know if we could do. Now, I'm not gonna get a little too overhyped because I still don't think this team's perfect. And I still think we got a lot of holes. And I still think we got a lot to figure out. But the first move is if we make the playoff. If we win out, we make the playoffs. And then if we can win a playoff game, I think Harbaugh saves his job. I think we're going to be prepped and ready for next season. We can make some more moves, get ourselves more even better situated for next year. And I like going to the off season with us making the playoffs and winning a playoff game over us missing the playoffs and having to decide whether we're gonna let Harbaugh go or not. Because the truth being told, I think that was one of the best coach games Harbaugh had all season. I think Harbaugh coached one of his best games. I think schematically, Zach Orr coached one of his best games. I think Lamar's played one of his best games this season. I think the defense, just in general, I think this team really showed up for this game and they wanted to win. While the Bengals, I think they just showed up looking flat, which I don't like that narrative so much. Because if they showed up looking flat, that means we've just beat a bad team. So, what does that mean moving forward? I don't know. Like I said, we're looking forward to the Patriots, and if depending on what happens in that Patriots game, that will really determine how I feel about this team moving forward. So that's all I have to say on that. Now, trending off topic a bit, because I wanted to end everything. I wanted to end this podcast on a different note than usual, but as you all know, this is an NFL podcast. I talk mostly NFL football, the breakdown for the teams of the week, MVP odds. I were good. I give you my picks here and there, and like there's a lot goes into it. But I'm not just a football fan. You'll find out during the off season around the majors. I will talk a little bit about golf. I'm a golf fan. I will mainly around the majors time is when I really talk more about it, and you'll see more of that probably in the off season when I have other topics to filter in and out. I'll catch the NBA playoffs. May not be a huge NBA guy, but I know what's going on. I know things that are going on. I kind of know what's going on in college football. I may not watch it much, but I do know that. I guess I'll talk about it real quick. For Fernando Mendoza wins the Heisman Trophy. He's the first player in Indiana history to win the Heisman after them having a perfect undefeated season. Now they go into the playoffs, probably the favorites. I think very well this could be a team that could win the national championship. And Mendoza is a quarterback that I think is very talented, and wherever he's going to be drafted, pick one or two depending on what teams are drafting high. And like Titans get number one or number two pick, they don't need it. They're not taking a quarterback. but Saints might, Raiders might. There's some teams that still might. So we'll see how that goes. But I think he can make a good positive impact on any team he goes. He's got a really good upside. He's really talented. He can move. He's got a good arm. He's got all the tangibles that you're looking for, and he seems like just a really good kid. So he seems humble. He seems like he's is going to just be a positive impact on whatever franchise he goes to. So I'm excited. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. What I'm here to talk about is what happened this Saturday. This Saturday, one of my childhood heroes retired from in ring competition. For those who do or don't know, John Cena competed in his final match ever against the ring general Gunther. He tapped out. I know it's a controversial move, but he tapped out with a smile on his face and kind of like a metaphor for his whole career of never giving up. He just said, "You know what? I gave it all I had. I'm happy that this is the way it's going to end." John Cena has been a pivotal part in WWE's modern day success. He has changed lives from those working with him to the wishes he's granted to kids who believed in him. He was an icon and the greatest to ever do it. I could talk all day about his accomplishments, but I wanted to take a moment to thank the man behind the character. You gave all of us fans one last beautiful moment, and most importantly, changed my childhood for the best. When things weren't always perfect from childhood to being a teenager, even to being a young adult, wrestling was always there for me. John Cena was always there for me. Wrestling may never be the same, but it has a future thanks to the standard that you set for everyone to come after you. Thank you, John Cena, and I can't wait to see you enter the WWE Hall of Fame and see everything else beyond that you do. Thank you. That was another episode of the Fourth and Forever podcast. Everyone, please like and subscribe. I have so much fun doing this with all you. The NFL season's winding down. I can't wait to see what we do in the off season. And well, like I always say, thank you to everyone watching.